Are you looking to learn about live streaming? Do you need help getting off the ground and going to create a professional live stream? On this episode, we're going to be discussing 10 of the best books on live streaming to help guide you on your journey. My name is Christian Karasiewicz, and I want to welcome you to both Amazon Live as well as the podcast for Launch Your Live. Hey everyone, how you doing? I'm going to go and bring on my co-host for this one. Bring on Mr. Marco Novo, and we're going to talk about 10 plus books today that can help you with your live stream. So Marco, it's great having you join me yet again.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to
Anytime.
be here.
So I know we're going to be talking about books on live streaming, and I think the first question is, why are we talking about books?
Well, first of all, because both of us love books.
Yeah.
And for instance, in my case, there are some things that we can learn from books that will allow us to be better live streamers. Because, for instance, uh, we want to take advantage of live streaming for our business. We need to understand also how business works,
Mhm.
how we should embrace, because there are so many things that can happen. How we can embrace the first live shows, which usually don't go so well. How we can overcome this. Also, how we can be a better live streamer. How we can use the content of a live streaming to use on other formats and so on. I think it's very important to read, for instance, marketing books, as we have, uh, a, well, not a couple, some in the carousel, because I truly believe that some marketing principles will apply and will be useful for you if you want to be a good live streamer, and mostly if you want to use live streaming for your business. It's very important to read these books.
And here's the thing. I think the key thing we want to impress upon everyone who's tuning in is the fact that it's the books that we're going to recommend. They're not all live streaming books because you need to build the fundamentals. So some of these fundamentals are things such as your focus. For example, when you do live stream for your business, for example, you can go all sorts of directions and it can eat up a lot of your time. However, it's so that's why like we have quite a few of these different books in our carousel here that we want to talk about. And it's because, well, when you're live streaming, you don't just want to, do everything. For example, you don't want to be trying to be one thing here and one thing here and one thing here and one thing here to capture all these different audiences. And so I know, Marco, we've got quite a few books we did want to bring up, but I'm going to turn it over to you. Where do we start, like in terms of like building those fundamentals for live streaming? What's the first kind of book you think we should be reading?
I think one of the most amazing. Well, okay, maybe this subtle art of not giving a
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, I think
word.
you're talking about, yeah, it's a book by Mark Manson, I think. There's a collection of these
Yes,
actually. There's
yes.
there's a 4-pack of all those books. Basically, he's got a couple of them actually, and then there's a 2-pack that he offers. And so I don't know. Do you want to bring that up actually while I talk about these?
Okay, you.
So book number one is going to be, and while you've got that queued up, okay. So Marco's got this queued up. I'm going to show you guys what this looks like. So this is the first book. It's the subtle art of not giving up. And there's also a couple other books in this set, doing the work, another one, and then another book as well. And so they're almost like they're fundamentals for streaming. So why is this book important, Marco?
Well, because there's something important about this book, which is we are so concerned about the opinions of others. How will people react if I do this, or how will it go? And this book, it's mostly about not giving, as it says. So, and this is really important when you go live. For instance, when I started in 2015, it was kind of um I was kind of an alien here in Portugal, because people was wondering, what is this guy doing? he wants to become a TV star. He wants to become famous or kind of real reality show in his own program.
Mhm.
But and also the way you think the others may look at you when you're streaming, how they will think about your voice, your look, everything. And this book it's about this, how you can not thinking about this, not giving too much importance to what other thinks, and not giving a damn.
Yep. No,
Because
definitely. Yeah. Mhm.
I have the sound here, not giving a fuck.
Hopefully that didn't get muted. Hopefully that muted enough. But no, I like the fact that like when you're going to do a book like this, a lot of people they go into. I think you make a key point there, and it's the fact that when people get into live streaming, they're very concerned about, people are going to see me on the internet. They're going to see me without makeup on. I'm not going to be together, things like that. And so, part of it's like changing your mindset. So I love this book. There's actually he actually has a sequel. So he had two different books he rolled out. They're both very good. They're along the same lines. But the first thing is you need to set aside all of that negative mindset of what people are going to think about you. Like when you talk about mindset, for example, and you put it in the context of streaming, you're putting yourself out there. You're going to be judged, and and that's just kind of how it goes. I mean, you're going to be judged by people, which so it's developing a thick skin, and so this is a very good book on this topic to kind of help you. You know what? If you're getting into streaming, don't worry about what people think.
Absolutely.
If you are always looking in the rear view mirror at who's actually coming up on you, you're going to actually be slower than if you're always just focusing like tunnel vision, looking ahead at things. Okay, so that's the first book, right, Marco? What's another book that people should focus on, by the way?
At the beginning, I love this book, Rejection Proof,
Yeah,
from Jia Jiang. I don't know if you know this author. I met him while I was watching TED Talk,
yeah.
uh, and he was saying about how he overcome rejection, because he had two rejection situations which impacted him so much. And then he come with this book
Mhm.
where he put it to himself this 100 days of rejection, which was every day during 100 days he put it himself in situations where rejection it was the most expected overcome. Okay, so first it was how to deal with rejection,
Mhm.
how you can overcome rejection. Then it was how he the putting this in situations. What if okay, people say no to me, but can I keep the conversation, seeing understanding if I can turning that into a yes, or to, for instance, okay, I think he asked it to someone. I don't want to give too much spoiler here,
Yeah.
but for instance, he asked it to someone, look, can I do this with you? And the person said, oh no. And then he asked, but do you know someone who may be interested in this? And then that person said, who, maybe I know this person who may be interested in that. So he developed a kind of process and step by step how you can overcome rejection, how you can deal with rejection. And there's a particular thing for me which was really important, because today's we have this these days we have this idea about the overcome, about the result, focus too much in the result. But sometimes, or if not most of the times, the end result, it's not just about us, it's someone else who may be judging us, who may be responsible of the result. And we don't give the right value to the process we made, to the effort we made, to the what we learned, to what we made. So this book talks a lot about this, and I think it's really important because, again, live streaming is a process. Okay, maybe the first live streaming don't go as good as you want. I'm
Right.
pretty sure about it, and if you at the end you may think, okay, I didn't have 5 viewers, for instance, at the end. It's not your fault, because you can be going from home to home asking people, please come watch my live streaming.
Yeah.
But you can give the right value to the effort you made, because uh, there are few people doing live streaming. So if you give that step ahead, you are just you're winning.
And I will say this, I mean, so very good book here. It's called Rejection Proof: How I Beat Fear and Became Invincible Through 100 Days of Rejection. The other thing you have to remember, so when you get told no on things, you experience rejection, we have a tendency to react to that and say, well, oh, nothing's wrong, for example. But every time, for example, things don't go your way. So you get rejected. Let's say you're playing a sport and you lose, we tend to take that all personal. And so one thing to keep in mind here is that there's always a silver lining to things. So you can always learn something, as a takeaway from this sort of thing. So, definitely, don't worry about, again, if if somebody rejects you for something, it doesn't mean like, oh, the door is completely closed. It just means you got to find a different way. For example, maybe there is a way you deliver something, or maybe your information's not so good, or maybe, it's the way you're doing the show, things like that. And so you want to take that rejection, you want to internalize it, and then use that and improve upon it. So, you may not know what that means, but if you, for example, if you keep getting rejected from people, and you keep hearing the same response or a similar response over and over and over, you want to use that as an opportunity to learn and to grow, so that you can, continue to improve yourself when you are, for example, doing your live streams. So, Marco, so is there another book we want to share, by the way? And again, if you notice, none of these are like live streaming books. But what's book number 3 we want to talk about?
Well, I think this spec with the crushing it, start now, get perfect later, the $100 startup.
Yeah.
Even though I have the shoe dog, I didn't start reading it, but I'm a huge fan of Gary V, and this
Right.
crushing it. It's about how you can build your personal brand, and then crushing it with your business and live streaming. It's so much about building personal brand. For instance, I think for let's talk about me, my experience. I'm kind of lost in a small village in Portugal, and I get to know people from United States. Lots of people like Chris, for instance.
Yeah.
And this gives you good lessons how you should be consistent, how you should be there doing things, showing up. And live streaming is about showing up as well, sharing value, improving. So I think these books from Gary V are good lessons, even though sometimes you should not uh, take them 100% for you, because Gary Vee is an exceptional guy, but he
Mhm.
has a team. He can do things that few people can do. So if you can apply 50% of his ideas, I think you're already winning.
Excellent point. Yeah, and so this book, I mean, this is this is a collection of books. It's covering the $100 startup, start now, get perfect later. There's also a book called Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. For those of you who happen to wear Nikes, Phil Knight, founder of Nike, actually. And so it's a great book on his journey as well. So, like, one thing you're going to experience there is when he first started his shoe, he didn't just like all of a sudden have this factory where he's making all these shoes. There's a lot that goes into that, and he actually details a lot of it. Actually, it's a really good book. Actually, worth reading. And so part of this is like, okay, so the $100 startup is in there because it's to show you that you don't need to go spend, for example, a lot of money on live streaming gear to get started. You don't need to go buy the most expensive microphone or camera. For example, it's starting with what you have, being smart with what you're doing when you're producing your live streams, and then showing how you can build along the way, for example, or making smart moves here and there. So definitely check out this collection of books. Highly recommend it. So
And I
yeah.
think if you allow me, this 100 startup reminded about something that it was a question I had once. I
Mhm.
was doing an open class or something,
Yeah.
and I was talking about digital entrepreneurship, and a boy asked me, "Well, I have this idea in mind, but I don't have the money. It's
Mhm.
not to start today. What do you recommend?" And I said, "Why don't you start creating content about your idea? It will help you validate your idea, for
Yeah.
instance. It will help you to find partners. It will help you to find, hopefully, for instance, founders. So and funders. So
Mhm.
this could be a really good way to start a company, because so many times we listen to people, oh, I have a good business idea, but I don't have the money. And
Right.
there's if you start sharing your thoughts, maybe you will find someone to support you, and
Mhm.
for instance, and to validate, because sometimes we think that our idea will be the next Facebook, and
Yeah.
it's not just like that. But if you start sharing your things, hopefully good things will come to you in your way, because by keeping the ideas for you,
Mhm.
they won't result for sure.
And I like what you talked about there. Like if somebody doesn't have the money, for example, to buy the equipment, for example, put your ideas out there. If you have a smartphone, start recording with your smartphone. And then build off that. Somebody's going to see it and they're going to say, you know what? Like, hey, this person A had the courage to actually go and talk about this publicly. But then at the same time, they may actually like what your idea is and then may want to work with you or help you. So, don't keep it bottled up is my key piece of advice there. And
Absolutely.
always be trying to work on it. Okay, so Marco, what's the fourth book we want to talk about in terms of, helping somebody like the best books for live streaming?
Well, I love this Pareto law book,
Yeah,
eighty
so
twenty
so what is
sales
this,
and
by the way?
marketing. Well, this law, I think it was Pareto, and
Yeah.
it should be Italian, who talked about this, and it almost applies to everything. For instance, 80% of the income of your business come from 20% of your customers. Okay, which
Mhm.
means, and this is for me, it's a really important thing, because by these days with this digital marketing thing, so much people are talking mostly about getting new customers. I hear few people talking about how to retain customers, how to instill loyalty and everything. And this book tells, it's really important about this, because when you say that 20% of your customers are generating 80% of the income, this means a lot, because sometimes you are wasting somehow, or you're not putting the right proportion of time in the other 80% of customers, for instance, which just generate 20% of the income. And the
Mhm.
thing about this is that this rule works within the 20% as well. So within that 20% that generate the 80%, 20% generate as well the 80%. Okay, so you can work inside the rule with the own rule. Okay, and this is good, for instance, if you want to understand how you can sell more, how you can prepare the contents you want to share on your live streaming. Okay, for instance, if you want to focus in those customers who are buying some kind of product, and if you see, okay, I they bought from me this product, so maybe they will want to buy this as well. Let me talk about this. Okay, and also live streaming, it's an amazing listening tool. Okay, don't forget about this. Live streaming is not just a way to be heard, it's also a way for you to listen. So use it and try to understand what your customers may be wanting to buy from you, and then provide that value, that product, that services to them. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why I loved. For me, this is a kind of, if I had to have 10 books list
Yeah.
on business, this will be there for sure.
And this is a very good book to include because, I like the point that you brought up. Like, it's all about the actions that we're doing. So, for example, we don't have to work 80 hours a week, for example. If
Absolutely.
we identify the right things to work on, you're going to find that you don't have to work as hard. You work on the things that are going to drive the most results. So, for example, if you're putting, you know, uh, 80% of your time into things that are driving like 20% of your revenue, like you're going to work really hard to get that 20% versus if I flip it around and I work on the most important things, I'm going to generate more revenue. It's going to also build my confidence and everything else that goes along with that, especially now in terms of live streaming. It's about building your confidence and, getting good at what you do. And so, you do want to make sure you pay attention to this. And again, this is a sales and marketing book, but it is something that can also be applied to live
Absolutely.
streaming because,
Absolutely.
for example, when I'm live streaming, I put in time into making my lives. However, like if I'm noticing, oh, well, I'm not getting the viewers, for example, or, I'm not necessarily, I'm not moving the needle based off the time that I'm putting in, then maybe I need to adjust something. And so, this is where like but you need to keep in the back of your mind how hard you're working at something. So if you're working, you know, like I said, 80% into just 20% of your revenue. So if you're putting 80% into your, working with customers and you're only generating 20% of your revenue or even less in most cases, you're putting so much energy in and you're not getting a lot in return versus flipping it around. It'll definitely help. So I really like that. And that's a very good book, by the way, Marco, the 80/20 sales and marketing.
I love
So
that's kind of uh, from times to times I have to bring this this book to the table because it has so many lessons inside, and it's simple.
definitely, yeah. So book number 5, by the way, in our list. Let me see if this is 5, right? I think, right? We at 5. Yeah, book number 5. And by the way, before we go into book number 5, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in and do us a favor. I want to thank Sam here who followed us. So we really appreciate that. We really do. So thank you so much. And we
Can
did
I can
leave.
I do something?
Yeah, sure.
Let's
Go
let.
ahead.
Thank
Awesome. Very awesome. I actually do like that. That's very good. So I'm going to move on to book number 5. We're about a little, almost halfway through the show, right? And so, what's another like book that I should be checking? Are there any live streaming books here yet, Marco?
Well, if you want, we can bring this book from Christoph Trapp.
Or let's go to number 5 first. Let's go to number 5. 5. Let's go
Okay.
back to Marketing Rebellion. So, what is Marketing
Okay.
Rebellion? Then we're going to get into some very specific live streaming books. But Marketing Rebellion, what is this?
Okay. Martin Rebellion is also, by the way, it's from Mark Schaefer. He was
Okay.
my guest a few months ago talking
Yep.
about another amazing book.
Okay.
And this book, it's kind of about bringing kind of marketing to basics. Because we see so many people talking about automation, lead magnet, lead generation, and this kind of things, and we are losing somehow the humanity in the marketing.
Right.
And okay, for instance, we as marketers, people, okay, these privacy things on Google, they are ruining my campaigns. This iPhone, a new rules also are ruining my things, but we forget our customer, our client perspective. Okay, because if we think about this, for instance, these advertisements which are kind of following us, stalking us all the times, this somehow it's overwhelming, it's boring. And in this book, Mark Schaefer talks about instead of being kind of stalking our customers, why don't you just create amazing things for them, amazing experiences, being close to them in a learning perspective, not just selling. And I love this approach because we cannot forget that we are humans, and as humans, we like the human interaction. We should not automate everything. We should not think about customers as a number, as a kind of, okay, I have here a trap and I want to trap my customer. So be human, create human interaction with your customers. Be again, listen, talk, because this is really important by these days. Or otherwise, I think in a couple of years, things will get a little bit bad for you.
Yeah, and so I think that's a really key point here. I mean, to make about this book, Marketing Rebellion. I think the key takeaway here is this is, it's a marketing book. However, how do you apply this to live streaming? And it's the fact that you're being more human. So you're getting to know your customers a lot more and get to know them a lot better, and you're able to engage with them versus always trying to constantly sell your customers. If people, they'll start to see your knowledge off of what you're doing. So, this book is not directly related to live streaming, but it's indirectly related because, if you can engage your customers, for example, just through conversation, you know, they're going to see that, when they're watching your lives, and they're going to feel connected with you as opposed to, oh, well, he's just trying to sell me something again. So I really like, really, really, really like that book, Marketing Rebellion. Again, I mean, it's about being human. So excellent find, actually, Marco. So now we're going to move on to our sixth book, right? And so our sixth book is what exactly, Marco?
It's going live.
So we got a live streaming book in here. And here's the thing. The reason we haven't actually just gone into just all books about live streaming is that you can apply these principles that you're learning in each of these books. So for example, you're trying to get started, you may check out the $100 startup and learn how somebody kind of bootstraps some things. If you want to learn how to better engage people, we're not talking automation. We're talking about actually having conversations with customers, for example. So what's this book about, Marco?
Well, Christoph Trapp, it's another live streaming Amazon creator.
Yeah.
And he came with this going live book. And one of the things about this live streaming world, and it's about maximizing the impact of your message. And sometimes we were losing because we were just broadcasting to one channel. For instance, when I started, I was just broadcasting to Facebook, but my message could also be heard in other platforms like YouTube, like LinkedIn, like Twitch, like Periscope, and also it can be heard through a podcast. So why not to reach more people, to impact more people with this live stream content? Why not? Because the content is there. It helps you how to frame the content, how to prepare, which is really important. But yes, it's kind of nonsense not thinking about reusing the live stream content, for instance, for a podcast.
Yeah, and so one thing I want to mention about this, I mean, so for example, I know this author, I know Christoph, and the thing is, one thing he started doing, you have to have a hook when you're doing your live streams. And so what Christoph, for example, has done is he started streaming with his Roomba. He had one of those, Roomba vacuums. Obviously you can get that on Amazon. He had, one of those, and he was streaming basically with the camera on top of it. And so, that's his hook to get people then to check things out because, hey, it sounds interesting. It looks pretty interesting too. So, again, I mean, this is a person who, that's how he's not like we mentioned earlier, we talked about, I think it was Crush It or something. I think that was the book we were talking about, right, Marco? And
yes.
You have people that, they have a team, for example, that they work with versus, Christoph, for example, is an individual who decided to write a book, and kind of detailed some of the stuff shared some of his knowledge. So that's book number 6 in terms of, helping you. So that is an actual live streaming book. What's book number 7 though, Marco?
I think this book from Melanie Diesel, it's also a must-have book.
So what is this one about?
It's about how you can become a content machine.
Okay.
Because
why does that matter for live streaming?
Well, because sometimes you have no idea what to talk about. You don't have idea which format you should use. For instance, should I be make a webinar, a 10 items list, or
Okay.
everything? And this book will help you a lot about creating content, about, for instance, how you can frame the content to reuse it in other platforms.
Okay.
It's kind of, if you want to really become good in content,
Yeah.
this is one of the books you need to have in your bookshelf.
Yeah, and so one thing that's like super important, by the way, let me bring this up so you can see this book. So this is the book. It's called the Content Fuel Framework by Melanie Diesel, and basically, uh, like the thing that's super important, I think, to take away here is that you're able to take some of these principles you're learning about in all of these books, and then you can apply them to your live streaming journey. So, for example, this is about like marketers struggling to create engaging content. Well, content, what is content? Content could be written content. In this case, it's video content. For example, it's not edited video, it's live video content. So, going like you have to have a story. For example, I said it a second ago, you have to have a story, you have to have a hook on what your like live stream, for example, is about. And so this is something like you want to make sure that you pay attention to this sort of thing when you are creating live streaming content, that you're not just, trying to kind of force things. So you can learn from each of these books because they're all different in what they tend to offer. They're not just preaching, well, do this, do this, do this. Like there's no roadmap essentially. It's just identifying, okay, you know what? Like we need to like draw our roadmap. Let's read these pieces, these books, and then let's take away some of the information in each of them and build our own roadmap off of them. So this is the Content Fuel Framework by Melanie Diesel, and so I'd 100% recommend checking that out. Um, so, by the way, for those of you who are watching, if you haven't yet followed us, make sure you do that. We go live every single week. We're talking about a live streaming topic this week. For example, we're talking about the 10 best books for live streaming to help you on your live streaming journey. Again, they're pieces that fit together in this puzzle called live streaming. Okay. So Marco, that's number 7, right? So what other book should we talk about?
I think this live streaming kit.
Yeah. What is this one?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of the Bible.
Yeah.
Because this is specifically to live streaming.
Okay.
Okay. And I like to say that live streaming, it's kind of the F1 of content, because it's very kind of unsafe, because it's just you, a camera, a microphone. You don't see other people. You are really, really exposed, and this could scare people. Besides that, you have to controls, or you have to have the idea about the microphone, the camera, the lights, the software, and everything. And if you can have in one place all this information, gather it to help you start, I think this is really helpful. Of course, besides watching to our shows, because they
Yeah.
will help you a lot as well, of course. But this information, gather it in a book. It's really important if you want to make a good result from your live streamings.
And by the way, it's a $3 book. So it's $3 for the Kindle version. One thing to kind of keep in mind of this, if you like, there's not going to be a specific book on your industry. So, but the thing is, if you go and read other people who are in different industries, for example, like this one, for example, might focus on gaming, you can always take something away and bring it back to your industry. So, for example, you could gamify, if you're in real estate, for example, and you're doing live streaming, you could gamify real estate. And so, like, for example, if it's talking about gamification for streaming, you can then apply it to your industry, pull out various parts of it, and make it work together. So, just don't think like, oh, well, I'm going to read this and it's going to be exactly what I need to do. It's going to give you ideas to hopefully get you thinking about, different things that you want to do on your own live stream. Okay,
Absolutely.
Marco. So I want to I want to pull up a couple other books here actually. So we've
Okay.
got we've covered, 8 books so far. I want to pull up a couple other ones actually. So the first one I want to talk about is actually let's pull up 3 more. So let's pull up Start with Why.
Okay.
And so this book, so here's the thing. When you are live streaming, you have to have an idea of where you're looking to go. So, you have to start with why. Like, why are you doing a live stream to begin with, for example? As you can see, Marco actually bought this book as well, actually.
I was thinking about it. Yes.
So it's Start
I've
with
got this book.
Why
Yes.
by Simon Sinek. And the benefit to this book is that it's something that you can apply across everything you do. So, for example, if you're doing, if you're going to be a blogger, for example, then why are you starting a blog? What's your blog going to be about? Being very concrete with like why you're actually doing the things you're doing. For example, if you're going to get into live streaming, why are you live streaming? Is it just because, hey, it's this newfangled cool thing, or is it because, what, I'm actually doing it to further another initiative that I'm working on? So, uh, I really like this book. I mean, so you need to start with your why. Like, why are you doing something? Why are you taking the time and putting it into, in this case, into live streaming? So,
Absolutely.
I think that's like
Absolutely.
super important. Um, and by the way, we got some really good comments here as well, by the way. So, we've got Letitia here was saying, so true. So like, really good to see just validation. So start with your why. Why are you live streaming to begin with? Now,
Mhm.
Marco, I'm gonna also, so we talk about that. The other thing also I think that's super important for live streaming. Let's go and bring up this book by Seth Godin, by the way. And this is book number 10. And I'm kind of like this stuff's important. So like book number 10 it's called Tribes, and it's by Seth Godin. And by the way, while I move over to that real quick, I mean, your why is everything when you're streaming. So don't just start live streaming just because you want to do it. Be very deliberate about why you're live streaming. So it could be, what, I'm streaming because, what, this is a natural fit in my business. I'm doing it because I want to help customers. I'm doing it because, I want to better my life. I want to, help other people. I want to help my family. Have a why behind what you're doing. So um, the other book that I also, I consider these almost like fundamental books. So the other book, and this is an older book, by the way, it's called Tribes by Seth
Yeah.
Godin. And it's a super, super, super short read. I mean, how many pages? This is
Yes.
160 pages, but it's a quick 160 pages. And, the thing that I think I want to impress upon you with this is one of the biggest challenges that uh, people have when they are uh, running a live stream is that they don't necessarily have the audience. And so they start doing a live stream, but then they're like, well, hey, I don't have the audience. And then they wonder, well, why are people not tuning in to my streams? And
Mhm.
you know, you so you need to cultivate your own group, your own tribe of people that you work with. And maybe we don't say tribe nowadays, but you need to cultivate your own community of people. And this is, going back to like the other book we talked about, it's about being human. So we're not just live streaming just for the sake of live streaming. Live streaming because we want to, like in this case, we want to actually help other people. So our why might be, you know what, I'm live streaming because not because it's just going to help me make more money. I'm live streaming because I want to take my knowledge and I want to share it with, other people who also have questions about this particular area. And then we're focusing on, we're not letting other, like we're reading that Mark Mason book for example, or sorry, Mark Manson. We're like, you know what? We don't care what people think when we're live streaming. We have a goal. We know where we're driving towards. What are, where are we sailing to? Where are we driving to? What's our end goal? So, so this book is all about building a community. And because when you are streaming, if you don't have a community and you start streaming, it's going to feel very like you're going to feel very isolated. For example, if you're just streaming and you're not getting any results out of it, you're not getting people tuning in. So you want to be building that, that tribe, that group of people that's going to follow you wherever you go. Doesn't matter if you're streaming to, If you're streaming to Twitch, for example, your tribe is on Amazon Live, doesn't matter. Like your tribe will follow you wherever you go if they feel connected to you, and you do that in an authentic way.
And if you don't mind, Chris, I
Yeah,
want to
sure.
add something because I think it's important.
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't think, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah. What is
because
that?
sometimes we tend to do this. We see, okay, this viewership, for instance, it's not growing, and we try to go broader in the audience, and we should do the opposite. Okay, because sometimes you don't get that tribe because you're talking in such a broader way that at the end nobody is uh, connecting with you. So
Right.
if instead of going broader you start narrowing your message, your ideas, maybe you will get a better following, which is the important. Is not to have
Mhm.
millions of people, but maybe sometimes with just dozens or hundreds of
Mhm.
people, you will get a good enough community to become successful, to be have a profitable business, and
Mhm.
that kinds of thing. It's really important to have this in mind instead of just going, okay, I want to reach everybody. Just think about those few people at that moment that you can help properly.
Definitely. Yeah. And the other thing, a lot of us, like, we hear what other numbers people are doing, or say we hear other people say, what, you can reach thousands and millions of people. But what's really important is that it's not about the numbers of people you're reaching. It's about how much of an impact you're having on those people. So for example, if you're doing a live stream and you're getting, let's say you're getting 10 people tuning in, it's great that you're getting 10 people to tune in. However, how much of an impact are you having on those 10 people? For example, it goes back to that whole 80-20 thing we talked about earlier. You're getting 10 people, and let's say eight of those people are generating, sorry, let's say, um, sorry, 20%. Let's say two of those 10 people are generating your, like, the revenue for your business, for example. They're very engaged. It doesn't matter. You only got 10 people, right?
Absolutely.
Two people are the ones that are really maybe driving your business for you,
Absolutely.
because hey, they're your biggest customer, for example. So the same thing holds true for live streaming. It's not about getting millions of people to tune in, getting thousands of people to tune in. If you're just starting off, you gotta build up, that relationship that you have with the people that are tuning in. You got to,
Absolutely.
include things, for example, include calls to action when you're doing your live streams to encourage them, for example, to, like, to help you share it out. For example, if the content is good, people are going to share it out, but you got to ask them as well. It's the
Absolutely.
same thing about building followers on here, for example, making sure
Yes.
that we're constantly letting people know, like, what, hey, when we're doing this, we'd love it if you followed us so that you don't miss the shows that we're doing you know so as you can see, I mean, all of these books, I mean, they all work together. Now I want to bring up one last book, by the way, Marco, and there's a lot of other books, by the way, that we have here in the carousel. I mean, we've got, uh for example, we're talking about, like, marketing rebellion, we're talking about the $100 startup, we're talking about getting a content framework. We talked about, like, there's some other ones in here. So we've got one of my other favorite books, Essentialism. We got Company of One. We got Starting with Your Why. Marco, let's bring up Atomic Habit, though. Or Atomic Habits.
There you go.
And and I want to bring this book up because my friend Letitia, she turned me on to this book. And this is a book about building good habits and live streaming. It's the same exact process. Like, you're going to hear from a lot of people when you stream, and they're going to tell you, yes, if you're live streaming, you need to build consistency into it. Yes,
Yeah.
you do need to build consistency, meaning you need to be going live on a consistent basis, meaning every Wednesday, for example, I'm going live at 6:30 p.m., for example, and I'm building that chain, and I'm not breaking that chain. I'm making a promise to my audience. However, you also need to be building good habits. So it's not just going live, it's then getting into the habit of making sure, for example, you're prepared for your live stream, making sure you are promoting your live streams properly, making sure, though, for example, at the same time, that you're bettering yourself as well. So, for example, if you're doing a live stream and let's say it doesn't seem like it's working, you know, don't be afraid to like try something new. So, for example, if you're doing it and you're like, you know what, no one's tuning in, or oh, it's the same people that are always tuning in. Well, how do we get more people to tune in? Let's tell them, let's ask them, let's encourage them to share our live, for example, to get more people to tune in. And it's us being open to making some of these changes. So, for example, if you're not getting people to tune into your live streams, and by the way, as you can see here, we're not mentioning equipment at all. We're not talking about getting cameras or microphones. That stuff is important, but it's not the core thing that is important. It's not about how good your live stream looks. It's about the message and the content you're sharing. So, for example, if you're doing a live stream and you're like, you know what, no one's tuning in. How do we make an adjustment that's not going to be like throwing a big rock into the water, and having it ripple? We want to get, little small rocks that are going to skip faster. If you throw the big rock into the water, for example, it's going to sink. It's going to make one big splash. However, when you do little small changes, they're going to help create a ripple effect. And that's where this book, Atomic Habits, does come into play. It's the fact that you're getting better 1% every single day with what you're doing. So, for example, if you're not getting people to tune into your live streams, what's one thing that we can do now to have a big effect? And that would be, hey, okay, you know what? People aren't tuning in. Let's try telling them, asking them to share things. Okay, if that's not working, maybe we switch the time of day, for example. Maybe we experiment for a whole month with a different time of day or a different topic, something a little bit different to see what moves the needle, and then be willing to make those adjustments. I think moving forward, it's that getting better 1%, whether it's you personally or in your business, doing something 1% better every single day. Marco, is there anything else you want to add on this? I mean, we talked about all these books, and there's a handful that are all about live streaming, but the thing is, it's not about equipment. It's not about tools. That stuff will help you, but you have to have a lot of these fundamentals. Is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I have to buy this book because, for instance, it's curious because I don't remember I ever add this book to my carousels, but I think it's the book I've got more sales from, which is funny. But the thing about this is, as you mentioned, for instance, it makes me come back to when I started. I had no idea about the importance of the camera, about the importance of the microphone. I just had in mind by those days two things. I'm really respectful about the message, the content I want to deliver. I want to be sure that this will be good and useful to my audience. And also I had this will that people will get to know me, because this was for me really important, because I don't think that keeping a secret it's good for you. I sometimes when I do trainings and people we talk about knowledge, and I ask to my trainees, look, let's think about the most wise man in the world. Okay, if he was talking in a forest, just facing the trees and telling to the trees, he's sharing his amazing knowledge, he's still being a wise man. This knowledge will be useful, and usually they stop, they stare a little, and they say, well, maybe not. So I think it's one of the big takeaways from the content sharing, the content generation, being in front of a camera. Also, something you mentioned, Christian,
Yeah.
is the importance of sharing and looking back. Okay, let's see where I can improve, what I can change, what I'm doing good, and I should keep doing, because you should have in mind, and this for me it's truly important, because I tell this because of my experience. You should look back and see, oh my God, how I improved. Because you should have in mind, okay, I'm not perfect today. It's perfect, it's normal. But have in mind that every day you should will to improve. Okay, I made this today, well done, but tomorrow I want to do this better. Okay, and you can find this in these books. Uh, in some of them, they more explicit, but on others, kind of disguised. But this lesson is really important. I love, even though it was a Christian who brought who put the who chose the Seth Godin books. I think it's one of the must-have authors. I love the how deep he goes in his thoughts, and at the same time, it's very clear for me to understand his point. So I truly recommend for you to buy. And I don't have commission on this.
Yeah.
All the Seth Godin books, because he's amazing. He's a big thinker. And do you have something to share about it? Because recently you have this, you have him as a keynote speaker in the StreamYard event, and I hoping.
Yeah. No, he's an excellent person to like listen to him. He gives some great advice. He's got quite a few books out there, by the way, as well. I always
Yeah,
like
I have around 10 at least.
he's very approachable, so like, but I think the key takeaway that I want to get across to everyone is that you don't necessarily need a book that is specifically about live streaming. You need to take some of the principles that are taught by, for example, it's a book about building a tribe, for example. You know, if, for example, if you're doing live streaming or you run a blog, it doesn't really matter what you do. You want to make sure you have the resources that are going to help guide you along that path. And like I said, you're going to learn about it, but then you're going to be able to also take things away from it that you can apply to different facets of your business or whatever else you are doing. So, I'd recommend, checking out some of these books. Some of these, by the way, are some of them I think are available through the Amazon Kindle Unlimited program. I
Yes.
think some of them
Yeah.
are hardback, some of them are Kindle versions. Personally, I like
And
to
Audible as well. For
do what?
instance, I think you remember this analogy he told the other day about juggling,
Mhm.
because so many people think that juggling is about catching the ball, but no, it's about throwing the ball. And there's another analogy about this. Like I don't know if you the snooker game. I don't
Mhm.
know. Uh, I don't know now, but some years ago there was a sports channel here in Europe, Eurosport,
Yeah.
and they used to show tournaments about pool and snooker. And
Mhm.
the amazing thing it's how in a kind of a row they just put almost all the balls.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the thing is preparation. It's not about how hard the ball is when you give that strike. It's the moment before you prepare the next movement, and it's like chess. And this is very important in live streaming. For instance, what do I want to achieve with this live streaming? Okay, I want to get more followers. I want to help people to, for instance, to buy me something, or I want to build my personal brand. So
Mhm.
having this in mind, knowing what your goal is, will ease the process to create the right content, the insightful content, the content which help you to reach that goal.
Definitely, yeah, and I can't stress this enough. I think the key thing here is, we've shared quite a few books with you, 10 plus books, by the way, the best books for for you as a live streamer to help you on your journey. And each of these books, they can teach you something. For example, if you're like, well, hey, you know what, I feel stuck. Check out, like, for example, the book Grit, The Power of Passion. For example, if you're a company of one, and you're like, well, hey, how am I going to get all this done by myself? Check out the company of one. If you've never even taken the time to think about why you are live streaming, check out Simon Sinek's Start with Why. So there's so many books here to check out. But what I want to do is I want to invite everybody. If you're listening to the podcast, for example, you can make sure you can go to launcher.live/EP 66. Actually, that'll get you back to this live video on Amazon Live. So we'd love it if you check that out. But again, check out the books. Go and pick, like, what, if you've never, like, if you're not sure why you're live streaming, start with the why part. We're not talking about equipment. We're not talking about tools, microphones, audio. you got to get the fundamentals built first and then move into the equipment and whatnot once you've got your audience consistently tuning in. But with that, Marco, I want to thank you for joining me on this. I mean, where we talked about 10
It's
best
a
books
pleasure.
on live streaming, and this is fun, right?
Absolutely. I just want to recommend to we didn't brought them to the carousel, but there's um a book from Malcolm Gladwell. I don't know if you know him.
Yep.
It's
Mhm.
an amazing writer, and I will recommend for you to read The Outliers.
Yeah.
This
Another
book,
good one.
it's about people who became amazing because they have that 10,000 hours of practice.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is a book, and the other one is it's Bounce. I
Yep.
don't know that. Let me check fastly the author.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, so in well, Marco's checking that out real quick. I mean, there's a lot of uh when you're getting into live streaming, you want to start with your why. Just a quick recap. You want to talk about like why are you doing your live stream? What's the purpose? It's not to get viewers, for example. I'm not live streaming just to get viewers. I have to have a deeper purpose. As as we had a couple commenters, they talked about like niching down, for example. Start with your why, determine what your purpose of your live streams are, and then continue to niche down on that. Marco, did you find that book?
Yes, yes,
Wha-
it's Bounce, and it's by Matthew Syed.
Okay.
Okay, and it talks about I think if you want to to want to be to understand this properly, the outliers idea, you should read this book as well
Awesome.
because it shows you it talks about and this live streaming I'm pretty sure that you want to excel as well the thing and but it's making things with a purpose because he mentioned for instance talking about the 10,000 hours of practice.
Hmm.
For instance, I think I already made this driving my car
Hmm.
more than 10,000 hours and I didn't become Ayrton Senna because I didn't had in mind I want to become at that level because
Yeah.
that's something important. It's not just practicing by because yes, because you want to improve, you want to excel. This
Mhm.
I having this in mind will help you a lot to become really good in something.
Awesome. No, this is great. And by the way, there's somebody asking if we're Jerry Steinfeld. I'm not sure. That's not me, Jessica. That's neither of us. Actually, this is Marco and Christian. But I want to thank everybody, by the way. I want to thank you for tuning in to essentially what is episode 66 of the uh, Launch Your Live show and podcast, where we talked about the 10 best books on live streaming to help guide you on your journey. Remember, it's not always about the equipment. You don't need the fancy camera. You need a good, you do need a good microphone, good audio, and good internet, but it also comes down to your principles. Why are you live streaming? And also, who are you looking to serve? So definitely go check those out. But I want to thank you for joining us for
Thank
episode
you so much.
66, where we discuss the best live streaming books. And remember, if you need help, don't hesitate to reach out to either of us. And then for more information on this episode, again, as I mentioned, you can go to launcher.live/EP66. That's going to get you back to this Amazon Live video, where you can check out some of the books that Marco and I were discussing. You can also see the ones that we featured during the show. But we will see you all on a future episode, everyone. Thanks a lot for
Right.
tuning in. Bye.